Welcome to BaseballGuys.com. I'm your host on Around the Horn, Ray Flowers. Big story in the world of baseball, not just because it has to do with a team from New York, but K-Rod, Francisco Rodriguez, got in a fight last week with his girlfriend's father in the Mets clubhouse. He was suspended a couple games for that. The team says you're going to have to go to anger management, K-Rod, to kind of work through things. And the team was really hoping to move on from what was a pretty bad situation. It's not going to be something they're going to be able to do, unfortunately. Turns out K-Rod's hurt a ligament in his thumb while punching the father-in-law. He's going to have surgery now. He's going to miss the rest of the season. There are reports starting to percolate that the Mets might go and try to recoup the roughly $3.5 million that are still left on the salary of K-Rod, thinking they are owed that money because he hurt himself getting in a fight. Don't know how that's going to play out. You have to think the Players Union would fight pretty hard for K-Rod to keep his salary and his money. But a bad situation gets worse. What are the Mets going to do? That's a very, very good question. They really don't have a secondary option. They could try a guy like Pedro Feliciano, though. He's more suited for a situational role. They could try Bobby Parnell, who's probably the best option they have. He's got good stuff. He throws strikes. Whether or not it's a situation that he can hold down to the role, that's definitely a concern. What are the Mets going to do in the ninth inning? It might be a group approach where they go based upon matchups, but it's a bad news for the Mets, and it's obviously horrible news for K-Rod owners in fantasy baseball. Jeremy Hellickson, great story, but his prospects are also dimming a bit with the Rays. Now, Hellickson has been terrific in his 3 starts. He's looked phenomenal. He's continued to do everything they've asked. He's going to make one more start, and that might be it. And the reason for that is on the 24th and 25th of August next week, the Rays anticipate having both Wade Davis and Jeff Neiman, who are currently on the disabled list with shoulder woes, back in that starting rotation, which means the Rays would then send Hellickson back down to the minors or keep him in the bullpen. The team is very concerned about running up his innings pitch count too high this year. They want to, as they do with all their young pitchers, have him be on a very measured schedule that has led to an awful lot of success, so you can't argue with it for the Rays. But if you're a Hellickson owner, you're not going to get much out of him the rest of the way. It looks like he's only got one more start before Davis and Neiman return. Carlos Pena, another Ray, in the news. Plantar fasciitis issue with his foot. He's back off the disabled list. He's going to start having an appearance in the minor leagues. If that goes well, he'll be back with the big league club on Tuesday. Says he's not really going to be limited. He's going to be ready to go. Obviously, speed is not part of his game. He just grips it and rips it at the dish. Look for him to return to the lineup and continue his push for a 30 home run, 100 RBI season for the Rays. Nelson Cruz. Nelson Cruz, folks, has been absolutely dynamic this season. He's on pace to go well over 2020. He's hitting in the 320s. I mean, it could have been a truly historic fantasy season for him this year, but he continues to get hurt. He's now been placed on the disabled list for a 3rd time for the same issue, an issue with his hamstring. Now, you can make the argument that he hasn't, he maybe should have had some more time on the disabled list. Maybe they rushed him back. But the truth of the matter is there are whispers out there that Nelson Cruz doesn't exactly adhere to a very strict training regimen, and that might be part of the reason that he doesn't spend any time stretching or really taking care of his body. Be that as it may, he's been a big disappointment for his fantasy owners who have to start and stop with him all year. He has been, again, extremely effective when he's been in that lineup, but it's getting more and more difficult to count on him. Hopefully he'll be back in the late 1st week of September, early 2nd week of September, and help the Rangers in that playoff push. But you're going to have to continue to find a way to get it done without Nelson Cruz in your lineup yet again. Eric Young Jr. Eric Young Jr. has speed. He's a 60, 70, 80 steal guy. A lot of potential there. He's been a dynamic force on the base paths the last couple of years in the minor leagues. Hasn't had a chance to play much at all with the Rockies. A little bit here, a little bit there. Looks like the Rockies might actually give him a chance, though, this time. He's recently called up with the club. Brad Hopp has been placed on waivers, according to some reports. He's really, really struggled. He's only got 7 home runs this year. He's only hit 4 home runs since May 1st, folks. Terrible production. So the Rockies are giving serious consideration to giving Eric Young a chance to play every day in the outfield as well as bat leadoff. NL-only leaguers should immediately add Young Jr. He has a great opportunity to help at least on the base paths. If he does indeed get a playing time situation worked out where he can be in the lineup on an everyday basis, he also has value in mixed leagues. We'll go to the Phillies situation now. They got 2 injured stars on the way back. Now, Shane Victorino has recently returned to the lineup, which is obviously very good news. The other 2 big guys on the DL, Ryan Howard and Chase Utley. Now, Chase Utley, good news with him. He's playing in a doubleheader in the minor leagues today. If that goes well, and it should, we anticipate having him back in the Phillies lineup on Tuesday, ready to go to add more depth to that lineup. Now, the case of Ryan Howard, he's a little bit further back with that ankle issue of his. He's not going to be activated on Tuesday as they hoped. They are still believing that he's got a legitimate shot to be back by the weekend. That ankle of his just needs a little bit more time to heal itself, and they might send him out for a couple of days to get some work in the minor leagues, but he is close to a return as the Phillies make that late season push for the playoffs. And then finally, the issue of concussions. We've got Jason Bay and Justin Morneau, the two big names that are dealing with that issue. Jason Bay's improved. He's back up to the point where he is now running, which is very good news. At the same time, there's still no definitive timetable for his return. We don't know if it's days, weeks. We have no idea, in fact, at this point, if he'll even return this season. All we know is he is improving, he is progressing, and the team is being very cautious with the slugger. Situation with Morneau is a little bit more dire. Still don't have a return date for him. He started, he stopped. He seemed to be having a lot more issues with the comeback from the concussion than Jason Bay has. Just goes to show you once again, folks, that when you hear the term concussion, we've kind of grown used to it not being a very major issue, but in fact, any injury to your brain, is not only tough to diagnose and really get a handle on, it's almost impossible to predict how long it will affect someone for. Hopefully Bay and Morneau will be back soon. We're just not certain though. Again, it's Ray Flowers, BaseballGuys.com. Thanks for joining me. Talk to y'all again soon here on Around the Horn.